covering all four major sports in the District of Champions. It's the DC Crossover Podcast with your hosts, Mike Cerrone and Ben Simpson.
What's going on, everybody? Mike Cerrone from the DC Crossover Podcast with Cerrone and Simpson, flying solo today for episode 129 of the DC Crossover, the thrill of DC sports. And I tell you, when we're talking about the thrill of DC sports, I mean, this city just takes you for a loop every single season, no matter what season it is, whether it's Redskins, Washington football team, Commanders, or the Washington Capitals, or whoever is playing in season. The Washington Wizards gave us some thrilling games over the last week or so. But I tell you, it's just something that you don't ever experience in another city for the most part. I mean, obviously, I don't have any experience in that field because I've been living here my entire life. But you're just looking at it and saying, this city just goes through turmoil, and then all of a sudden, a jubilation, or is it a jubilation? No, it's jubilation. I forgot whatever word it is. I'm trying too hard now. But I mean, it just goes up and down the roller coaster when it comes down to this city. And throughout this entire episode, we will get to a lot of those different types of thrills that we've had in the last week. But again, I want to welcome you into the DC Crossover with Cerrone and Simpson. I am Mike Cerrone. Ben off this week, episode 129. I want to also thank our sponsor, DraftKings, the DraftKings Sportsbook. You can always tune in to their free play pools all the time. And also you can hang out with us and listen to our end segment of our episodes, the Money Line, sponsored by DraftKings, where you can also bet on some of our picks. Right now, our season total tally for this season of our picks, Ben is at a 5-11 record. So not really doing too great, but I did go 0-2 this past week. So he ended up going 1-1 and beating me this week. But I'm 11-5 this season. So I'm on a little heater. Not going to lie, on a little bit of a heater for the most part with my parlays. I think I'm 5-12 or something like that, which in the grand scheme of things, when you look at parlays, obviously they have a lot bigger payout. So a 5-12 record, yeah, okay, under 500, but my return on investment, my ROI, is through the freaking roof over the last 5 or 6 days. So I'm actually pretty thrilled with that. But as Ben did hold down the fort last week, I was out of town. I was in South Carolina visiting one of my best friends that I grew up with. And I'll tell you one thing. Airports are just nuts. Now, I'll get to that in a second. But if you haven't visited Charleston, South Carolina is one of the premier spots in all of America. Now, obviously, you know, people always Google all the time, oh, where should I go on vacation, or where should I go for this weekend, or whatever. And Charleston is always in the top 3 for the United States. And that's the funny thing, is that I've been there now twice, haven't been disappointed once. I mean, it is a great place to live, great place to visit, and just overall a great place in general to never be bored at. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do in Charleston. And I literally planned this weekend. Me and my girlfriend went down there. Visiting my buddy and his girlfriend as well. And they have a beautiful house. The housing market down there is so much cheaper than here, which is nuts. And then all of a sudden, you also look at all the things that they have planned that you can do on a weekend. I mean, it was a random weekend. Okay, so me and Jess are teachers. Obviously, if you guys have been listening to the show for a while, my girlfriend's name is Jess, and we're both teachers. And we had a holiday on this past Monday. And we go down there, and my buddy's like, oh, yeah, I got this to do, a food truck festival. Like, I mean, he's naming all these things that are going on just in a random weekend in Charleston, South Carolina. So if you haven't been there, definitely go there. So getting into my main point of, and everyone knows when you listen to this show, me and Ben usually banter back and forth in the first 10 to 15 minutes or so, letting us know, or letting each other know, I should say, what's going on in the last week or so in our lives, and also keeping you guys up to date, what's going on with us as well when it comes to trips and comes to just in general things that grind our gears and stuff like that. So the airports obviously are really easy to get frustrated in because no one really likes going to airports. I mean, God bless the people who literally have to work on the road all the time and they're literally flying left and right. A buddy of mine's dad, when we were growing up, I mean, he had this one project where he had to fly out to Minnesota for literally like every other weekend. It's like, that must suck. Now, obviously, he was getting handsomely paid, so that's a different story. But I mean, overall, just flying on planes just blows. I mean, it just sucks. And I don't know what it is, but we were on United, and for some reason, United, their seats got like smaller or something. Either I grew to be a giant, or literally the seats got so small that I feel like I'm, regardless, flying on Spirit or Frontier or Allegiant. Is that still a thing? I mean, all these nub plane companies or aircrafts or whatever you want to call them. I mean, they literally pack you in there like sardines. Everyone knows that. But my knees couldn't be more far up my throat because I literally was sitting on that chair and I could not get comfortable whatsoever. Not to mention that you would think that they would manufacture this plane and make sure that the plane has the windows like right next to the window seat instead of, oh, my window, sorry, is in between the guy's seat in front of me and also my seat. So like I'm like leaning forward trying to look at the stupid Route 28 or something like that. I mean, it's just so funny to me because you're looking at it and it's like these airlines have to be, I mean, we can make a list. Honestly, we can make a list of exactly what scams are out there that everyone knows about that, but they just keep paying. But airlines are such a pain in the ass. I mean, I seriously can't stand airlines. I mean, yes, going on trips is fun. And once you get there, you're enjoying yourself and all that kind of stuff. But the dread of, oh, I have to leave today. Let me pack up my stuff and just count down the minutes till I have to go sit next to, you know, Gary over here or whatever, this Charles that's sitting there with his stupid Washington Post newspaper that's up in my grill. And then you have and another thing that really pisses me off. Now, this is a tangent, but I don't really care because I'm here by myself and I'm just going off. Another thing that really pisses me off is the stupid idiots that literally go and get food. Like this guy had like literally a $5 foot long from Subway. And he's like, let me just eat my turkey club here. Like, dude, the tray table in front of you isn't even a foot long. Like, how are you going to eat this thing? Not to mention, sorry, I don't want to see your oil and vinegar and all this other garbage that you put on the stupid sandwich in front of me. Like, I already hate flying enough. Like, I don't get scared on flights. Let's put it that way. I just hate it because I don't like sitting there. Like, I mean, you're sitting there sweating. You're like, this is like uncomfortable as hell. And then you, like I said, you have Charles over here reading the Washington Times, and then you got freaking a Bill over here with this stupid Burger King. It's like, can you just not? I mean, I don't understand why you have to sit there and eat a full meal from Burger King and then have your newspaper and you have to look at like the most middle section. So your arms are all the way so far out that the newspaper is literally hitting me in the face. Like, I just don't understand airplanes. I just don't understand them. And like I said, you would expect, oh, I get a window seat. Cool. I can look out the window. Sorry, your window is in between your seat and the other person's seat to the point where you have to lean forward and you're literally eating the tray table in front of you just to look outside. I mean, and not to mention, God bless flight attendants. God bless them. All right. I'm not going to lie. God bless them because the sole fact that job must be really tough because of the sole fact that you're flying all the time and people suck on flights. I mean, people are rude. People are just mean and nasty and they smell. And then flight attendants have to deal with all that stuff. But I don't understand when flight attendants feel the need to ask you if you want something to drink. Now, a buddy of mine said, no one's ever woken me up. I've had flight attendants wake me up literally almost every single flight. Now, I don't sleep that much on planes, maybe like 5-10 minutes, if that. I usually am trying to watch something. But like if I'm looking at myself, I can see you in my peripherals, okay? I can see you. I don't need to make eye contact with you if I don't need a soda or if I don't need a water on this 50-minute flight. Like, I just don't understand where they're like, can you tap that guy to make sure he needs something? Like, can you tap him? Like, I've had so many people tap my shoulder and I'm just like, what do you want? Stop asking me. I don't want a Coca-Cola. I'm sorry. I don't want a ginger ale. I just don't understand it. Don't wake me up. Don't bother me. Like, I just want to get out of this plane and move along with my life. But instead, these flight attendants, and again, God bless them, nothing against you personally, but the ones that sit there and have to tell Charles next to me to tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, this Betsy over here is asking you if you want a soda. Sorry, Betsy, I don't want a soda. I want to get the hell off this plane. Stop asking Charles to tap me. Okay, I'm sorry. It's just how it is. Okay, that's just how it is. Keep to your little box. I mean, my laptop right here is probably, I mean, geez, this laptop is probably as big as the seat was. I mean, I was so scrunched in there to the point where I was dying. Not to mention, I got sick literally the day before I should say, the morning of that we were going to Charleston. So I ended up getting screwed there as well because of the sole fact that I was coughing all weekend. I felt like death. I mean, happy Halloween, but I felt like that's what we should have called this episode's Halloween episode. But literally, I felt like death for the last like day and a half of being in Charleston. So that kind of ruined a lot of the trip. Not to mention the flight got delayed about 20 minutes or so because it arrived late. And then I'm sitting there and all I'm doing is eating candy because the stupid freaking Jack Nicholas or whatever restaurant at the Charleston airport, they literally had 5 things on the menu, and I literally got one of them, and they said, "Oh, sorry, you don't get tomato soup with the grilled cheese because we're out of it." I said, "You only have 4 things on the menu. How are you already out of something?" I don't know. Anyways, that's a whole nother story. But also what kind of things that kind of grind my gears when it comes to airports and airplanes and stuff like that. How people dress to get on an airplane. I mean, I can't tell you how many hoe bags I've seen literally. And yes, I just said hoe bags. You can add bag to any word and it makes it sound funny. Hoe bags, literally. I've seen so many people. Like this one girl came in there, crop top, stomach hanging all out, ass halfway out of her pants. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are we doing here? I just don't understand. Like, dress appropriately. Sorry, I don't want to, guys do it too. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I see guys in like tank tops and stuff like that. It's like, dude, sorry, I don't want your freaking, pits all in my dome when I'm sitting there trying to get off this plane, especially when they're trying to like move through the seats or they have to go to the bathroom, God forbid, and their like arms are all up. So it's like, dress appropriately. Get a sweatshirt, get a jacket, get a just a t-shirt, something that's normal wear and tear, all that kind of stuff. And make sure that you are dressed appropriately to get on the freaking United flight that they pack you in with. Not to mention, it's like the last United flight that we were on. I mean, there was no airflow in there whatsoever. I mean, absolutely zero. Felt like I was going to be suffocated. It was unbelievable. But just how people dress on airplanes. I mean, like I said, this girl came in a crop top and stomach's halfway out, ass is out the back. I mean, it's like, what's going on here? Like, seriously, are you going to the club? Or are you going to bed? Which one is it? I don't understand. Not to mention how people get off the plane. I mean, and this is going to be like, this is like a whole plane episode. I mean, geez, I've already been 13 minutes. I don't care. I just don't care. Hey, my show, my rules. How people get off the plane. Okay. I love how the pilot did that little Geico little thing where, that Geico commercial where the old man's in the fishing gear and he's like, you got to be quicker than that with the fishing line and the fishing pole and all that kind of stuff with the dollar bill. Literally, that's what the pilot did, or the captain or whatever you want to call it, Captain Insano. That's what he said. He was like, hey, if you have a connecting flight that you really need to get to, raise your hand and people will let you off. Okay, there was 6 people in the back of the plane that were sitting there raising their hands, literally freaking out. I mean, like literally about to pop a blood vessel in their head because they were just going nuts about trying to get their connector flight. Sorry, maybe you didn't plan better enough or good enough. Or maybe you should have went up to somebody in the front and said, hey, I'll pay you $100 right now if we can switch seats. Because I would have taken that deal in a second, even though I was the second to last row. But at the same time, you're like, I hate these people who they get up and they act like, I mean, the stupid little walkway thing isn't even attached to the plane yet. What do you think you're going to do? You think you're going to just jump off the door? It makes no sense. Like, what are you rushing to? Not to mention the people that have like 3 carry-on bags that they stuff in the overhead compartments, but they get on too late because they couldn't plan far enough in advance to get to the terminal in a certain amount of time. And then all of a sudden their bags are all separated on all of the compartments all over the plane. It's like people are just stupid. I mean, that should be the title of this episode. People are stupid. I mean, it's like, let's be honest here. I just don't understand it. And last but not least, obviously, this should be the last part, is talkers in the airport. So I mentioned earlier that me and Jess went to this restaurant because we got dropped off a little earlier, and we were like, all right, let's go get something to eat. The only real restaurant was called like Jack Nicholas, like the Golden Bear or something like that, which, okay, I like a nice little grill or whatever. So it was gross. I mean, there was fruit flies near the bar and all that kind of stuff, but that's besides the point. I just don't understand because this one lady's traveling separate than this other lady. And you could just tell when someone, that feeling when someone's kind of like looking at you and you just don't want to address them or even look at them, or you just feel like their eyes are in the back of your skull. And this lady starts talking to her, and I'm just like, man, I couldn't stand if someone did that to me. If I was traveling separate and I, went to a restaurant or something like that just to get something to eat real quick or whatever and just hang out for a hot second, and then this person starts trying to chat me up, it's like, I'm sorry you have 3 connectors, but I don't want to talk to you. I don't know who you are. I'm never going to see you ever again. Why do I need to talk to you? And why do you have to and it's like the same person on the plane. Okay. If you're sitting next to someone, if you're in like a 2-2 row kind of thing, 2 seats, and you're sitting next to somebody, you can exchange pleasantries and stuff like that, but that's the extent of it. You don't want to go farther than that. You go farther than that, then all of a sudden the person is feeling like they're just trapped. Like they're feeling like an animal in a zoo. Just like, well, guess I'm going to go, play in the pond today because I have nothing else to do because I'm in a zoo. And now all of a sudden this other person starts talking to you and you're like, well, I mean, you're Ricky Bobby with your hands up in the air saying, I don't know what to do here because I don't want to talk to this person. But, Chatty Cathy over here wants to tell me about, her visiting her grandson. It's like, who cares? I mean, these people are so stupid. I just don't get it. Like, I understand, like I said, exchange your pleasantries, be done, get it over with, and then, move on with your life. Okay. Everyone has headphones on the plane. Almost every single person, except for, like I said, Charles over here with the stupid Washington Post. And then you have, the Subway and Burger King over here that's sitting there eating a 10-course meal, is onion rings. I mean, it just makes no sense. Everyone has headphones. Everyone has technology nowadays. Leave me alone. That's all I'm saying. Leave me alone. I mean, that's all I can say, because no one really cares what you have to say. And no one really wants to talk to you because, let's be honest, everyone's a loner nowadays in the world today. All right. So moving on to the rewind after I just spent 17 minutes of venting about airports and idiots. So first off, the Washington Capitals 5-4-0. They beat the Devils 6-3, 6 different goal scorers in that one. So that's good to see. Lindgren, our backup goalie, with a good output, saving 92.7% of shots that game. That's a game you got to win. You got to beat the Devils. The Devils are not a good team right now. They've been rebuilding for, it feels like ever since Martin Brodeur left, they've been rebuilding. But overall, 6-3 win. They got the Devils. Then the next one, those damn Dallas Stars. First of all, I hate Dallas no matter what, mainly because of the Cowboys. But we can't beat the Stars to save our damn life. I mean, one of my best buds from college, he's a huge Stars fan. We go to the Stars game every single year that they come in to town here in DC. And, he messaged out on Facebook to me and said, hey, good job beating us today. And I was like, yeah, well, we can never beat you. So I just got to bet against us every single time. Lost the Stars 2-0. Darcy Kemper, though, 92.6% of shots saved, which is awesome. It's good to see him actually step up a little bit. He had a rough start to the season, but getting used to the new club, new defense, new everything like that. I think that Darcy Kemper is now kind of getting his legs underneath of him after his last 2 games that have been phenomenal. But Dallas did win 68% of the faceoffs, so I mean, that's a huge ordeal right there all in itself. That's not a good recipe for a dub. But then moving on to the next game, a shutout against Nashville. There you go, Darcy Kemper with his first shutout as a Capital. So overall, I mean, pretty damn well overall. I mean, 96 or so percent of shots saved in his last 2 games. So I will take Darcy Kemper as moving on right there for us in his first shutout as a Washington Capital. Moving on, also Protas tallies his 3rd point in the 3 games. In his last 3 games with a goal. So that's good to see as well, the 21-year-old for the Washington Capitals. Moving on, the Washington Wizards, 3-3. Pretty good start, 3-1, lost last 2. So not the best as we would hope. But we did the same thing last year. Started off pretty strong, then kind of evened out. But I'm liking this team. I'm liking this team overall. They started off this past week beating the Pistons 120-99. And then they ended up moving on, playing the Pacers for the 2nd time in 6 games, which is kind of crazy. They lost to them 127-117. The Pacers shot unbelievably from the 3-point arc, literally in the first half. I mean, I think at one point I saw a graphic that said that they made more 3-pointers than we made field goals in general, which is nuts. But the Pacers are, they're kind of rebuilding as well a little bit. But overall, they got some good pieces there. So hopefully we don't have to see them for a while. I think Miles Turner really killed us that game. Moving on, obviously, lost to the Celtics yesterday, 112-94. Early game, I believe it started at like 5 or 6. But 112-94, the first time the Wiz kids have not scored over 100 points this season. So that's not that great. But overall, really impressed with the Wizards so far. Happy with them going out there and giving us some entertaining games. This is, again, one thing that I said prior at the beginning of the episode, that this is a thrill of DC sports, going out there and having a chance, watching Bradley Beal go out there and Kyle Kuzma, KP go out there and actually do some fun things. Daniel Gafford coming off the bench. We're seeing a lot of different things that this Wizards team is providing for entertainment purposes. And overall, it's kind of funny because some people said that we were going to finish like 13th or something like that in the standings. But with this team, if this team stays healthy and they play like this the entire season, I can see us fighting for a playoff spot, but I don't think it's going to go much farther than that because of the sole fact that, yes, we got Bradley Beal. We don't really have that secondary star. Yes, KP is good, but who knows what his health is going to be coming down the stretch and so on and so forth. But 3-3. Entertaining first 6 games for the Wiz, and we'll see what happens after the next few games. So the Washington Commanders now are on the docket, and let's get right in to the Washington Commanders.
We are the Commanders.
The Washington Commanders, man. What a game yesterday. That was one of those types of games that you just sit there and you're like, are we really going to win this thing? Are we really going to stay in this thing? Is this game ever going to end, honestly? Because of the sole fact, I mean, you're looking at it as well. That game was not pretty, and the funny thing about this team right now is that I'm getting kind of irritated because of the sole fact that, I always say you have to be one or the other. You have to be one or the other. I mean, are you a team that's going to go out there and give us a shot every single week? That's a team that I want to see, a team that's going to, have a shot to win every single week. Or are we going to be a team that goes out there and has these little squeakers where it improves our win total, but when it comes down to the draft, we all of a sudden have to go out there and try to have some type of personnel decision for a 15th draft pick or whatever, number 15 in the first round draft pick. And you're sitting there like, well, how is that going to help us? I mean, having a top 5 to 10 draft pick somewhere in the top 10 is so crucial. I mean, you're looking at it for the NBA, for instance. I mean, most of the time, probably 90% of the time, if you don't have a pick in the top 6 or 7, then the person's probably going to be a role player for the most part. Either a role player or somehow might surprise you like a Giannis or whoever else got drafted, way past number 15 or something like that. But you're looking at the Commanders and saying, are we really going to go out there and just squeak by every single game? Because yes, people sit there and they're like, oh man, it's nice to go out there with a dub and it's awesome to see them win, all that kind of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm one of those guys. I love seeing my team win. I've been a fan for them for years. And it's just, you're looking at this team and it's not really, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I got some thorn in my side or something like that. But this team just doesn't, it doesn't feel, ever since week one, it doesn't feel like this team is really giving me any joy personally. Mainly for the sole fact that, the whole entire Carson Wentz shtick that everyone says that he sucks and that he's a choke artist and he's this, and he's that, and all that kind of stuff. But then you see, Taylor Heinicke come in here and everyone's, all gung ho for Taylor Heinicke. I just don't understand it. So we'll get to that here in a second. I have a little, spiel that I want to go through. But just going along with the 17-16 win, the studs, we'll go with studs and duds. I think the studs, Scary Terry. 100%. 6 catches of 8 targets, 113 yards. Antonio Gibson, 7 for 58, 1 touchdown. So right there, that's 13 catches for about 180 yards or so, 170 yards or so for just those two. So that was the bulk of the receptions and the yardage for Taylor Heinicke. My boy John Allen, 8 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Deron Payne, another sack for him. I believe he has 5.5 sacks, if I'm not mistaken, which ties his entire year last year. Also a tackle for loss. And our boy Tress Way, 4 punts inside the 20. Right now, he's tied for first in the NFL for punts inside the 20. And that just helps the defense. And it's helping a lot, especially yesterday where the defense kept us in that game for the most part. In our duds, the offensive line. It's a huge need this offseason. Obviously, we need offensive line, quarterback. We need everything on the offensive side of the ball that does nothing to do with the receivers. Let's be honest here. We do have some needs on the defense, but again, another topic, another day. But overall, the offensive line is just putrid. They just don't have any other thing to, hang their hat on, because every single time they go out there, they're just getting blown up left and right. Now, yes, their line is pretty good. DeForest Buckner's an obvious presence inside and also on the outside. He plays both. And then obviously you have Shaq Leonard, one of the best middle linebackers in the entire NFL, who was hurt for a little while, but then came in and made a huge impact. But you're just looking at it. And now I'm going to get into the feelings I have about this team. Excuse me. So the Washington Commanders just give me this uneasy feeling, if you want to say it that way. The uneasy feeling that I have for this team is that with every single win we have, we are taking a step back in our progress to being a better franchise, to being a better football club on the field, and just in general, not taking the steps forward that we need to. And that can include losing. Sometimes you just need to lose. Rome wasn't built in a day. And despite all these different things about Dan Snyder and all that kind of stuff, I don't want to get into that today. Okay. Don't want to get into that today. But sometimes you just have to lose. Now, I'm not pro tank all the time. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not when it comes to different sports. But winning these little squeakers, you're going to get to the playoffs, for instance. Say we get to the playoffs somehow, some way. Now, I don't think it's going to happen because our division is just stacked right now. But you're looking at it and saying, we get to the playoffs, who are we going to play that's just going to wax us? I don't want to see there or see on the TV us losing by 17 points because our coaching staff is incapable of planning or adjusting or anything like that, and being inferior to a guy, say like Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan or some of these type of guys that can go out there and adjust on the fly. Ron Rivera, and even though Jack Del Rio, I kind of like him here and there, but Scott Turner, they just don't adjust. They just can't do it. So why do I really want to see this team, be competitive and show some strides? Because that'll give me more enjoyment right now, honestly, than winning these squeakers. because the Squeakers feel like we're just pumping the brakes on progressing this franchise into being a consistent presence in not only the division, but in the conference of the NFC. Because for me, I look at this team and see great pieces. I see Jahan Dotson, who, yes, he's hurt, but he made some flashes and I think caught 3 touchdowns or something like that in the first 2 weeks. Scary Terry going out there, doing his thing always. The defensive line looking great. John Allen, once again, being the leader that he is. But the problem is winning these Squeakers, we're honestly moving our draft stock higher and higher and higher to the point where we're literally not going to be able to get a premier offensive tackle or guard or somebody that's going to be an impact for this team. You know, there's only certain teams out there that keep losing. Yes, they're consistent losers and stuff like that, like the Lions, like the Jags, those type of teams, the Texans. But you're seeing this team, and this has been a gripe for people the last 15 years, that it seems like whenever we make the playoffs, we're barely squeaking in with a 9-7, 10-5, or 10-6 or whatever. Now, obviously, there's 17 games, so it's a little bit different. But you're seeing this team always just squeak on by. Like, it's like, I don't want to see a 17-16 win. Now, it did help one of my parlays, I'm not going to lie, but I would love to see them actually beat a debut of Sam Ehlinger, whatever, by more than 1 point. Our defense is probably on par with theirs. I mean, they have a pretty decent defense, I would say. Their front seven, but their corners, except for Gilmore, are nothing to go crazy about. Not to mention, Jonathan Taylor has been a shell of himself all year. Their offensive line, I mean, John Allen was just ragdolling Quentin Nelson a few different times yesterday. But I'm just looking at it and saying, we should have been beating them by at least 10. You would hope. Now, obviously, the odds makers said, "Oh, Taylor Heineke's in there and all that kind of stuff. Ehlinger's in there." So, we'll put the spread at, what was it, plus 1.5, for the Colts, something like that. But I just think about it and think, this shouldn't be like this. I mean, literally, we are so far ahead, I think, of Indianapolis. Then, I mean, their receiving core sucks. I don't care what anyone says. Oh, Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman couldn't be a number 1 on 16 teams. I mean, let's be honest here. Michael Pittman dropped a ball that could have possibly won them the game yesterday and gotten them in field goal range. I mean, literally, that's the thing. Michael Pittman is nothing. Paris Campbell, I mean, he was literally drafted before Scary Terry, came from Ohio State, was teammates with him, and he sucks. I mean, he sucks too. It's like, literally, their offense is not that great besides Jonathan Taylor. Sorry, I said it. Mo Alie-Cox is a basketball player. I mean, what else do you want to say? I'm just thinking about it and looking at it and saying, this team, again, I'll repeat myself. This team is not giving me personal joy, even with a win, because, again, I feel like this team is taking steps backward by winning these little squeakers and somehow finishing 7-10 or 8-9, stuff like that, because it's not going to help us. We need draft capital. We need draft picks that will come in here and make a huge impact. We need trades that'll help us. You're looking at teams like the Panthers, for instance. They just sold their system with Christian McCaffrey, got a ton of picks back, and somehow are winning. Okay, sweet. Who cares? You're going to have a ton of draft capital. Great. That's awesome. But for us, it's like, we don't trade these people. I mean, they were like, "Oh, Antonio Gibson, I like our backfield." Like, you like our backfield? Sweet, Ron. Who cares? If you trade him, maybe you get a good draft pick for him, like a 4th rounder or something like that, or a 3rd rounder. I mean, we've been somehow hitting more of our 4th rounders than we have our 1st rounders. But you're looking at it and saying, this team needs to pick a side, basically. You're the dark side or you're the light side. You're one of the sides here. You can't be in the middle. And in the middle is what has gotten this team to where it is now, where it's just mediocrity every single year. You want to talk about victory Mondays and all that kind of stuff. Half the season is a victory Monday. So you just have to mark up what you got. And honestly, going along with Taylor Heineke, I think he's a great guy. I think he's a cool guy. I think he's fun. I think he's energetic. I think that the whole entire team loves him. But I'm a little over the fan base sitting there and not looking at the facts and just clamoring for Taylor Heineke to be the starter on this team. Why do you need Taylor Heineke to be the starter? I don't understand it. I mean, I literally want, tweet me at Cerrone16. Literally, I want someone to sit there and tell me the really great 3 reasons that Taylor Heineke should be the starter on this team. Now, am I comparing him to Carson Wentz? No, not trying to compare him to Carson Wentz. I think Carson Wentz gives us a lot better shot to win, if you ask me. Now, yes, does Taylor Heineke maybe fit this system because he's been in it for so damn long? And maybe does he fit this team because our offensive line sucks and he can move a lot more, be more mobile than Carson Wentz? Yes. Yes. I believe that wholeheartedly. Nothing against him and nothing against Carson, honestly, in that matter as well. I mean, those are just 2 facts. Okay. But the difference is Carson Wentz doesn't have limitations throwing the football. Is he inaccurate sometimes? Yeah, sure. Sure, I get it. He's inaccurate sometimes. But you're looking at Taylor Heineke, and it's like, I mean, it's like Ryan Zimmerman out there and at the end of his career, just noodle arming everything. Taylor Heineke, and I think it's hilarious because everyone, all the fans, I should say, not a lot of the analysts and people on Twitter that beat reporters and all that kind of stuff, but all like these fans, these fair weather fans, and the Heineke Hive and all these people. Oh, he won us that game. He won it. No, he didn't. He scored 7 points. 7 points in literally, what was it, 55 minutes out of a 60-minute ball game. 55 minutes, he scored 7 points. So everyone thinks, oh, man, Taylor Heineke gives us a chance to win. He underthrew Terry McLaurin on that last ball. Does anyone understand that? Terry McLaurin beat Stephon Gilmore, had about 3 or 4 yards of space. If Taylor Heineke had anything underneath that football that could have actually got near the end zone, that would have been an easy touchdown. Easy. But he underthrew it. Terry McLaurin has to be, Superman out there and go out there and have an unreal, a dramatic catch just to give us a shot. And people think that, Terry McLaurin, what a great catch. But Taylor Heineke, man, he's the guy. He's the guy. Dude, he underthrew him by 5 yards. I mean, literally, that's what all last year was. And everyone realized it last year. But once Carson Wentz came in and once, this offense was inept and literally incapable of moving the ball at all because Scott Turner sucks, literally you're looking at it and saying, oh, everyone wants Taylor Heineke now because Scott Turner's offense sucks. Oh, okay. Well, they scored 17 points yesterday and 7 in about 55 minutes. So I'm sure his offense is really changing with Taylor Heineke. I think it's just stupid, man. I mean, not to mention the week prior against the Packers literally, I mean, they somehow are just a shell of themselves after losing Davante Adams. But you're looking at it and saying, last week, I didn't get to watch a lot of the game, but I saw some highlights. And Taylor Heineke was like 1 for 7 with like a pick 6. It's like, you can't have that. Yes, everyone has a bad game or something like that. But come on now. Let's be honest here. It's just funny to me how people sit there and they put Taylor Heineke on a pedestal because they just like, oh, he's a scrapper. He's a really, I mean, he just is all grit. And his toughness is awesome. I don't want a quarterback that has grit and toughness. Yes, my backup quarterback, I would love to have that. Taylor Heineke can be my backup any day of the week. But for the people sitting there not realizing that we were so limited yesterday with the short passes, why do you think Antonio Gibson had 7 catches for almost 60 yards? I mean, is anyone gonna mention that? And I saw the take the other day. Actually, I should say not the other day, it was yesterday, that someone said on the radio, Oh man, those 50-50 balls, he just throws it to the right guys. Sorry, I don't want a guy to be pulling the trigger on all these different. He should have had 5 picks in the last 2 weeks. I don't think anyone realizes that. Balls were dropped left and right. He had a crucial pick in the fourth quarter. It's like we're having a different conversation if Scott Turner calls a different play, or if we run the ball, or if we have any type of good clock management in the Titans game and we win that game. Total different conversation. Literally. Because no one wants to give Carson Wentz any credit. Everyone wants to just to S on him the entire time. But you're looking at Taylor Heinicke, and he doesn't do anything for 55 minutes. But that's the whole entire Tim Tebow aspect. When Tim Tebow was on the Broncos, everyone loved him because he was just tough nose, grit, would put his nose down and run through the tackles and stuff like that, and give you some opportunities besides throwing the football. But now, you're looking at it and seeing that, when Tim Tebow was on the Broncos, that's why he's not playing football anymore, because he can't play the position. And there's only so much you can do when you don't score for 50 minutes and you have a good 10 minutes of football. That's why the coaches always say, like, we need a good 60 minutes of football. But of course, Taylor Heinicke can't do that. He can't. Look at backup quarterbacks all around the whole entire NFL. Case Keenum, probably the closest we've seen in the last decade to being a backup and moving on to being a starter, like he was in Minnesota and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just funny. It's such a hard position to play, but I hate the fact that people sit there and just rag on Carson Wentz for 2 missed throws, but then Taylor Heinicke goes out there and makes one throw where Terry McLaurin makes an unbelievable catch, and everyone gives him all this credit that, oh my God, what a play. Like, he's an MVP. I get so tired of it. I'm just over it. I can't stand it. It's just, literally, I just can't stand it. But for me, like I said, I'm not pro tank all the time. Like, once in a while, like, in certain sports, like the NBA, different things like that. Yeah, I would love to, get a lottery pick and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to the NFL, you have to lose to get a high pick, or make some unbelievable trades, kind of like the Eagles do every year, it feels like, or the Patriots or something like that. But anyways, just enough about the Commanders right now. Obviously, when Ben gets back, we'll have a little more in-depth talks about that. But for me, I love seeing my team win, but I don't like seeing them win squeakers to the point where, again, in my opinion, we took a step backwards by winning that game and not getting better draft position, because as of right now, we're 8 games in. I mean, we're about halfway into the season. And again, where are we at? Mediocrity, once again, at 4-4. Looking at the NFC East, the Eagles 7-0, the Giants 6-2, Cowboys 6-2, and the Commanders at 4-4. Once again, the Eagles probably going to win the division. Giants, everyone picked the Giants to finish last in this division, so they're going to come down at some point. And I think this past week against Seattle was a big, notch off their ladder. But our next home game is this coming week versus the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins comes back to DC. We'll see how that game goes. But just in general, it's one of those situations where you're looking at this team and hoping that if they're going to make a little run, That'd be great. But if you're not, make sure that you're not sitting there and somehow, winning tiny little squeakers. And then we get to the playoffs and all of a sudden everyone's like, let's go. And they're all hyped up. And then all of a sudden we lose by 20, and it's just a useless situation. Again, stepping stone for another team. So anyways, let's move on to the final lap. Oh man, the final lap. Ding, ding, ding. Ross Chastain whips his car around the wall at Martinsville. Martinsville, by the way, one of the smaller tracks. I think it's one of the, might be the top 2 smaller tracks when it comes to the NASCAR series, Martinsville and Bristol. But He had the fastest time ever around the last corner to make the top 5 and get a spot in NASCAR championship, which is nuts. I mean, the replay, you should go back and watch it. It's unbelievable. Like, wow. Crazy to see that. I haven't watched NASCAR in a very long time. Used to be very into it, but not anymore as of the last 5 or 10 years. Tennessee, University of Tennessee, the Vols wax UK, Kentucky, and prep for the showdown against number 1 UGA in Athens. That's going to be a great game. Apparently, just the news just came out. Georgia's best pass rusher is not going to be attending that game. I believe he's hurt or sick or ill or something of that nature. I think he's sick. Or, excuse me. I think he is hurt, but we'll see about that. Last but not least, the Stanford's mascot, which, by the way, is so dumb. It's a tree. I never understood that. I mean, Stanford Cardinal, and you have a tree as your mascot. When you think it's a bird or something, anyways, is suspended for a banner that says Stanford hates fun. I'm a little confused by that because now I don't know whatever the whole entire message behind Stanford hates fun, because it could be something like a political statement or something like that I really don't care about whatsoever. But when you're looking at it, it's kind of funny to me because, first of all, the tree mascot, it has to be one of the ugliest mascots ever. It's like a Christmas tree that has like a mouth by the guy's knees and the eyes are like droopy or something. It's weird. I don't know. It's just weird. But suspending a student from being the mascot, and then the mascot's tweeting out and calling himself number 44 because I guess they count however many people are the tree, in the past and all that kind of stuff. It's just weird to me. Like, what in the who is who is giving these people this platform where all of a sudden, I'm the Stanford tree. I'm going to do a political statement, with the Arizona Sun Devil or something like that. I mean, honestly, those type of people. I mean, when you have a political statement or whatever it may be, for a mascot. I mean, let's be honest here. You're the mascot. Let's be honest.
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
I mean, honestly, it's just, it's just funny to me, man. I mean, hey, it reminds me of this situation.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
An idiot sandwich. That's what that guy is. Now, I'm not going to, say his political statement is wrong or anything. I don't even know what the hell it means. Stanford hates fun. Something behind that. But to me, it's just kind of funny because the whole fact that this guy went out of his way, lost his mascot's suspension or whatever, because he wanted to have a banner out there. Just go out there and just jump around, because that tree doesn't do anything anyways. I mean, literally the tree is just jumping and making weird motions. Mascots are, I mean, I do like the mascots though, that go out there and have like the football game against like the little kids, and they go out there and just like spear like a little Tommy that's in like 4th grade. Now that's the funny stuff. That's good stuff. I like that. Anyways, that's good entertainment right there. All righty. So we are going to get into our money line segment. And we're going to move right into the money line, sponsored by DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to Maryland, everybody. It won't be long until you can bet same game parlays, money lines, props, and more with DraftKings. But you don't have to wait to get in on the action. You can enter DraftKings Pick'em free-to-play pool every week for a shot to win a share of $15,000 in cold hard cash and prizes. Joining a free-to-play pool is simple. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app, select pools in the menu bar, and choose from a variety of free-to-play pools for a shot to win big. Soon enough, you'll be able to bet on all your favorite sports teams from the comfort of your own home with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app and sign up using the code DC Crossover to enter DraftKings Pick'em free-to-play pool for a shot to win big. That's DC Crossover only at DraftKings. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 years or older and physically present in the state of Maryland. Eligibility restrictions apply, subject to regulatory licensing requirements. See DraftKings.com/MD for full terms and conditions. Now, moving on to the money line, sponsored by DraftKings. Last week, again, I went 0-2. Not the best week, okay? Not the best week for your boy. I mean, I was on a nice hot streak. I was 11-3 through 14 picks. So I was on a nice little streak. Not as hot as I am right now on the parlays and everything like that. But I went 0-2. OSU really killed me. Iowa State really killed me. And then I had the over in the Raiders and the Saints game. And the Raiders, they suck. I mean, they're terrible, unbelievable. But again, the money line sponsored by DraftKings. This week, our picks. Ben's picks of the week. His lock is Washington -4.5 versus Oregon State. Ben loves the Huskies. He's a Husky guy. He loves the Washington Huskies 4.5 versus Oregon State. And then he's got Indiana, the Hoosiers, +14 as his dog versus Penn State. Penn State obviously just had a nail biter, at least through 3 quarters with Ohio State. But obviously they came out on the wrong side of that defeat. Penn State did. And I think they lost by 11 or so to Ohio State. So tough game last week. So hopefully Indiana can cover the 14 in that one and kind of surprise some people. My picks of the week, my lock is under 39.5 for New England and the Colts. I just think New England's defense is another animal. They're always stout for the most part, except for the week prior when they were playing. God knows who. I forgot who they were playing. They got waxed on Monday night. But under 39.5, New England and Indy, definitely going to go with that one because especially Ehlinger, playing as well. I think Bill Belichick will come out firing. Not to mention, both these teams average under like 22 points per game. Indy, I think, is at like 17, and New England is at like 22. So I think that's going to be boding well for your boy here for my lock under 39.5. And my dogs, I'm taking the Vols +9 at Georgia. I mean, they're just blowing out everybody. And then you look at the game against Alabama, that was a scoring fest. I think that Tennessee can go out there and score with Georgia in general. And I don't even think Georgia's that great on offense. Yes, they have some playmakers and they can score. But just overall, I think that Tennessee +9, you're giving them over a touchdown. I mean, that's insane. Even if you want to take a teaser, you can add, 2 or 3 points onto that one and make it a 10+, maybe a 10.5. Spread and go with that one. But I think Tennessee has a really good shot of just winning outright. So I love to see the spread at 9. I love to see what the money line is. I'm thinking it's probably going to be +2 something. That's just my opinion. But overall, I think +9 is way too many points to give Tennessee the Vols right now and Hendon Hooker. But overall, my record 11-5, Ben at 5-11. And man, I really wish I had our outro of John Z, but I don't. That's on Ben's side of things. But once again, this is episode 129 of the DC Crossover. Once again, definitely want to thank our sponsor, DraftKings Sportsbook. Definitely go and check them out. They're going to be coming soon to Maryland, as you heard the read earlier. But they are a proud sponsor of the DC Crossover, and we are thrilled to have them on board. Once again, episode 129 of the DC Crossover, the thrill of DC Sports. I am Mike Cerrone, once again signing off for yet another episode of the DC Crossover with Cerrone and Simpson. We will see you all next week, everybody. Stay tuned for yet another episode, once again, with Mr. Mike Cerrone and Ben Simpson next week. And hopefully, we'll see a Commanders win. But I don't know. We'll see about that. All right. Take care, everybody.